I'll try my best to keep this short because we've all had the sub versus dub debate a billion trillion times. I'm not really here to debate the quality of dubs versus subs. I think I can make the case that, in general, Japanese voice acting tends to be better than the English voice acting, just on the quality of the acting. But that's not really the core of what the issue is, because frankly, a lot of the people watching subtitled anime don't know Japanese well enough to even recognize good or bad acting. And it's not that it's never transcendent, sometimes it is, but those moments are really quite rare. Like, most of the acting in anime in Japanese is not that great. But when I say most, I mean most of the characters, as in, like, sure, the main character might be played by an amazing voice actor, or the main 5 characters, or some shows really go all out on the cast. And so, like, if you're watching, say, Do Da Da Da, yeah, it's all great voice actors because that's something they really cared about with that show. But if you're watching a show that's got, like, hundreds of distinct characters, which almost any, like, shonen anime, this would be the case, not everybody who is on the show is bringing their A game. And also, like, a lot of the dialogue in a lot of anime is just not good. Like, it doesn't leave room for good performance of it. You get great lines, you get great moments, you get scenes that work. But there's almost no anime where the performances are just all on 10 all the time because the dialogue is so good and the performances are so good that, together they're just creating this magic. Like, that practically never happens. I can't think of one. I'm like running through all the examples in my head of shows with really great voice acting, and I cannot think of one case where it's like stunning to listen to every line in this anime. Like, it's just never been the case. And there are movies that are like that. There are movies you can watch and like every single scene you're like, damn, they're just I could watch this guy play this character all fucking day. So I'm not going to get into the quality argument. What I do think that's really comes down to, the real core of sub versus dub, is, do you watch anime to connect with yourself, or do you watch anime to connect with the people that create it? And I think this question creates a huge division in, like, the general fandom of all mediums, and the way, maybe not so much that it divides the way that we feel about the content as it divides the way we talk about it, for sure. Because there's the mentality that you want the content to be like the best it can be for you is more like consumer end mentality of like, okay, well, how do I get the best experience? How do I, enjoy myself the most? Whereas there's the sort of artist end perspective, which is like, how do I understand this the best? Like, it's not about getting the best experience for myself, but getting the most accurate experience, the one that's going to tell me the most about what the artist was trying to say. And it's not that type of person is necessarily like being altruistic or something. It is still kind of a selfishness, but it's just a difference of what you think you're getting out of the experience. Whether it's you think that you are being personally fulfilled by having the best experience possible, or if you think it's fulfilling to get the most intended experience possible. I, as a fan, am a fan of creators. I'm a fan of specific creators. I'm a fan of the voice and the way that specific people carry themselves, the way that they draw, the way that their lines look. I see the individuality in creative people, and I like them as individuals. I tend to study people who I like. Whether I manage to actually become friends with them or communicate with them, I try my best to like make it clear to these people that I like their stuff. Talk to them about why I like their stuff, because to me, art is about communication. And this is, again, I'm coming at it from an artist's perspective because I also make stuff, and I know what I want other people to do with the stuff I make. So I'm kind of approaching other people's creations the way I would want mine to be. If somebody dubbed my videos into another language, and it's a language I don't understand, so I can't oversee it, I would encourage it because it will probably make my video accessible to people who can't read. But like, if you can subtitle my video into that language and then they can still listen to my voice, I think you will get more out of listening to that, because something is definitely lost in translation either way. But you will understand more of my intention by hearing my voice than if you heard someone else's voice that isn't copying my cadence, that doesn't have the same tone, that isn't, that isn't me. If it's not me, it's not going to feel like me. And it could be that you would have a better experience with that other voice, and maybe you would only be able to connect to my content through that voice. So it's not that I don't think it'd be worth it for it to exist. I think it's worth it for dubs to exist. I'm glad that people have them and people get to enjoy them. But when people say things like modern dubs are good or dubs have gotten a lot better, it doesn't matter. Like, dubs could be literally on average better than the Japanese audio, and I don't know that would make me want to watch them. And there are a couple of cases where, like, I have nostalgia for certain dubs. The Pokemon dub, the Dragon Ball Z dub, and the Yu Yu Hakusho dub. Like, my care for those shows is so tied to my nostalgia for how I saw them for the first time that watching it in Japanese, it doesn't feel like the same show. It feels like I'm getting a different appreciation for it, and in some cases that might be preferred. I don't know about Yu Yu Hakusho. I haven't even really tried to watch it in Japanese. I'm sure it's probably great. A lot of my favorite voice actors are in it, so it would probably be a great experience. Norio Wakamoto is in Japanese Yu Yu Hakusho, but it won't have the fingers around my dick dialogue in episode like 91 or whatever, which sends me. If you don't know what that is, just search YouTube for fingers around my dick and watch it. It's one of my favorite shitposts of all time. I still quote, "You have done good work," relentlessly. Now, I don't want this to seem like I'm trying to accuse people who watch dubs of like not caring about the artist or about the intent of the work, because frankly, when it comes to anime in particular, there is not a artist. There's a big group of artists who all leave a mark on the show, and trying to even focus on like one or another can be really difficult. But on the other side of that, I tend to view anime metatextually. Like, my engagement with the medium is about comparing them, about following creators through their participation in the media. So like, maybe there's somebody who's an episode director on a show and that episode really stands out, and then you go and watch other shows that they did episode directions for, and you notice that every time they do an episode, it really stands out. And like, it's not the same thing as getting that person's raw creative voice, because it's being filtered through their writing or directing for shows that they had no other part in the creative process other than directing this episode. But they just have such a particular lens towards directing in general that it leads to something recognizable no matter where they go, no matter what they're leaving their mark on. That's what intrigues me about anime. So when it comes to the voice acting side, I am just as hyper attentive of like who's in what shows, why. With anime, everything like the reason that people are in the shows they're in is because of the production companies they work for. It's almost never like a cherry-picked collection of voice actors. It's like, we hired this agency who represents all these actors, so we have access to the actors from that agency. And that's why there's like a sort of suite of actors that almost always turn up together. If you see Miyuki Sawashiro and Aoi Yuki and Tomokazu Sugita, like all these, classic actors who've been around for a while and they've been in fucking everything. They're always together. Because, when you just want like the grade A talent, you just go to the grade A studio. You just go to that department and you get that team. But if you can't afford that team, you're not going to that department. You're going to a different department. You're getting a different scale of team. Or you might be literally scouting 5 or 6 complete newcomers. Maybe they are from different agencies, but you're working with like the lower level producers for those agencies that are managing their entry level talent that hasn't moved up the ranks yet. You can follow that. Like, following Japanese anime in Japanese, you can follow the trajectory of all these voice actors, and it's a much larger industry. Whereas in the dubbing world, it almost all takes place in Austin, Texas, and it's like the same fucking 100 people who are in everything. Everything. And, like, I mean, I've had times where I'm like a little bit sick of some of my favorite Japanese voice actors because I've heard them, constantly. But, like, with English voice actors, it's like I don't even have time to miss you, like you're going to be. I love Laura Bailey's voice, There are 5 or 6 performances of hers that are really great performances, but she's in everything. So I've heard her do plenty of just lazy, whatever, kind of phoned in, and she still sounds fine. Her voice is incredible, but it's not a performance, it's a paycheck. It's a video game. Like, there's not writing. There's not dramatic. There's moments. There's key moments that will make people remember you and go, oh, wow, yeah, I remember she was awesome in that game, because they're thinking about that one time that she cried and, like, got big emotional. But, like, most of it's nothing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is everyone takes anime voice acting way too seriously. Subs and dubs are both okay at best. Subs are on average better. And as somebody who's interested in anime as a cultural thing and interested in anime through the lens of how do creators move through the industry, it just makes sense for me to watch subs. Watching dubs won't give me that experience. It won't give me those extra things to think about. And I don't have like the same level of relationship with the dub actors because I'm just like tired of them, whereas because they're in everything. It's just a foregone conclusion that they'll be hired because they're in the place where the thing happens. In Japan, the place where the thing happens is Tokyo for all aspects of life, so that's not as problematic as all voice acting happening in Austin, Texas for US dubbing. Thanks for listening to my, I guess LA also. They probably, LA and Austin, whatever. Trixie, The Golden Witch, all my links are below. Make me president in 2028, anime forever.